The Morning Brew podcast with Jaffe and Razor, sponsored by Berkshire Bank Home Lending. Where you borrow matters. Well, there's nothing like a special brew. That's right. Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. Special brew time. As always, presented by the wonderful people over at Berkshire Bank. And we'll touch on Fazenda Coffee and the awesome people at our favorite coffee place coming up. But Berkshire Bank, presenting sponsor, Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. Razor, every year we say the same thing, bud. Prices are so high. Everybody's asking so much. There's not going to be a lot of stuff. Holy smokes. And then stuff starts to happen. Now, does that mean there's going to be significant movement overall? No. However, the Boston Bruins have already made a major move acquiring Hampus Lindholm from the Anaheim Ducks. In addition to bringing him in, they also get a minor league defenseman, but they ship out multiple draft picks, John Moore's contract, and also Urho Vakanainen. So let's just start. Let's get right into it. No soliloquy for me, although it seems like it. I know. What is your original take when you saw that the Bruins got Hampus Lindholm on Saturday?
Well, I loved it. Loved it. He's the guy that fits perfectly for what the Bruins. He should have been their number one target. He was the guy that I looked at as number one, and for them to get it and pull it off, I was happy with the rental situation, let alone an 8-year deal that you now have him and Charlie McAvoy locked up on your back end for the next 8 years. It's really a pretty sweet deal. Really good job by Sweeney, and to the point of, I mean, it's called inflation. And my house is worth way too much money than what it is, and everyone's is in the New England area and Belleville, Ontario, for that matter. But I bet I can find someone that will pay for it, and that's what the market dictates. That's where this league's at. That's where the Eastern Conference is at this season. And again, I'm more than happy to give away 3 first, seconds, and draft picks. Give them all away. Give all the draft. I'm giving every draft pick away I have if I can get a guy that's played in the NHL on an 8-year contract. It's just that simple.
Well, your name then is Julian Brisebois, because he's pretty much doing the same thing.
Yeah, and he's got a handful of rings. That's right. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. So.
Yeah. The exact deal: Hampus Lindholm and Cody Curran. Cody Curran is a 32-year-old defenseman who's actually had a nice, solid pro career in the American League and over in Europe. He comes over, will go to Providence. The Bruins give up a first-round pick in 22, a second-round pick in each 23 and 24. Urho Vakanainen and then John Moore. I really hope John Moore gets healthy and everything, but the Bruins find a place to take his $2.75 million contract, opening up more space. That's why the Bruins had to give an extra pick as well. But that opens up a lot of space for them. And they get Anaheim to take half of Hampus Lindholm's deal. So those are the specifics there. You're getting a 28-year-old defenseman, a guy that just turned 28 in late January. He's 6'4", about 215 to 220 pounds. He is not what you would call a bruiser. However, he can shut down opponents' power forwards with his skating and his smarts. That's what he's about. I talked to a couple of people that know him. I know Hampus Lindholm. I know his game. I've watched him. But I talked to a couple of people that really know him. And this is a combination scouting report, Razor, that I'll just give quickly here. Again, legit top 4, meaning a top pair or second pair guy. But, if he plays with McAvoy, huge bonus. But if he plays with Carlo, because for the matchup, a huge bonus too, because now you get 2 guys that are 6'4", if not 6'5", playing together on that second pair. He shut down top guys, Razor, when he played with Josh Manson, who was also traded recently with the Anaheim Ducks, and when they played together. He can eat up minutes, expect 22 to 24 minutes a game. Sneaky offensive. one coach told me that he'd consider him for a second power play type of situation, if only because he keeps pucks in well and then he can get them through, but definitely second, not first unit. He stops, this is a term I found interesting from one of his former coaches, stops the progression of the puck defensively, meaning he's in good place to push pucks to areas where they don't progress, where they don't get better. And one coach also said to me, he thinks that he's going to change the slotting of the guys for the Bruins into a place that will set him up beautifully. So that's a scouting report, a cumulative scouting report that I got from two different coaches that know Hampus Lindholm real well. He's obviously excited to come to the Bruins, Razor. When it shouldn't be looked past. Him willing to sign a contract before he even laced up with the Bruins once. I know he wanted 8 years with Anaheim, but then just because the Bruins and he agreed to the 8 years, I mean, he had to know something else or feel something else, right? To say, okay, not only will I go there in a trade, not, although he didn't have veto power, but I will go there without lacing him up once and sign an 8-year contract there.
No question. They got the right dollar amount that helped everyone. You can assume the East Coast, he's closer to everybody back home, and there's all the time change, all those things, and yeah, it's nice to have another guy that wanted to be here, similar to Taylor Hall last year, and that it's very similar in those ways, to be able to get guys to come here and get guys. You're giving up assets, but again, you would do anything for Euro Vakanainen to turn into Hampus Lindholm. So you just got him. It's easier. You don't have to wait around for it.
Yeah. And for now, you still keep Lysell. You still keep Lohrei, the defenseman at Ohio State. You still keep Studnicka for now, who looked better the other night, but, we still want more out of him. So you still keep that. With all that said, you also kept them for a potential other deal. And we're going to get into it in a moment or two. We'll talk quickly D pairs right now, but in a moment or two, we'll get into it because the freaking arms race that's going on in the Atlantic Division it's not holy, it's holy shitness at its finest. I mean, you want to talk about between Tampa, Florida, and even Toronto getting involved along with the Bruins. It's crazy. Let's talk D pairs, though. It's easy to say that he'll just slot in with Charlie McAvoy. And I think that's what makes the most sense, perhaps originally. He's not going to play in the Montreal game, but you see him against, Tampa on Thursday at home. I would just try him there. I would absolutely give it a go right there. But I wouldn't think it's just a foregone conclusion that he won't play in more than just one pair.
No, I agree. And I think your last point, whatever the coach slotting these D-men in a better spot, that's what it does first and foremost. It also eats 3 or 4 minutes from each of them. And that probably puts them in a better spot as well to be able to contribute more to the game, to be able to contribute more in good situations. And listen, the numbers that McAvoy and Grizzlick have together 5-on-5 are incredible. Now we always suggest that might not be available come playoff time. It might be a little harder, but the reality is they got to a game 7 against the St. Louis Blues and Matt Grizzlick on that, back there playing a lot of minutes. And so yes, it'll be interesting. You assume that's what he is, but I think there will be a lot of the toggling that we've seen over the years with this group, that they're not afraid to mix up their top 6, and you can get a good matchup now in all different situations with Hampus. You get, whether it's in the defensive zone, whether it's on the power play, whether it's penalty killing, whatever it is in the game, you can move these guys around a little bit and seem to be able to slot them in a perfect scenario. And you have Forbert now solidified on that third pairing penalty kill guy. He's really fits that really well. He doesn't have to extend himself now playing with Charlie McAvoy, no matter what the scenario is. And then you have the Riley Clifton in and out, depending on the matchup and who they're playing against and what you do with them. And then you have, to your point, do you put Lindholm with Carlo and shut guys down, or do you put him and allow McAvoy and himself to really, you can put those guys out there and they can basically play half the game together. And that's right. What it comes down to come playoff time. That's why Lindholm is Hedman is such a beast, because you put him out there for 30 minutes of the game. That's how you dictate with your defense.
Yeah. There's no question. And in the Atlantic, again, defense is getting scary deep. Speaking of depth, you mentioned the Bruins top 7D, but without Vakanainen, and we're assuming that he's well enough to go, meaning he's healthy enough to go for Anaheim to accept him. They had to obviously do their due diligence to make sure medically they felt that he was all right. But now your 8th D is Jack Ashan, because we know that Zaborov's not going to be back. Does that concern you? Or do you think that they're still not done dealing, that they've got to add? I don't think they're done dealing. Let's get that out there right now. I think they're good for 2 more deals. I think they have to, especially given what we're seeing from the other Atlantic Division teams. But just, we always talk about 9, 10 defensemen that you've got to play. I mean, who else are we talking about that they would play? Who, am I forgetting somebody?
No,
I mean, no
they
more.
Yeah, they didn't get deeper. They actually lost a little bit of depth on the back end.
Right.
Technically with John Moore, because you could rely on him for his 12 minutes if you really needed him. So yes, they got thinner on the backside. So I agree. They're far from done. They're going to pick up a 7th, 8th defenseman guy to be able to have and plug in and out, because, like we know, you're going to need it by game 3 of the first round.
All right, so let's just play make believe GM here, something we both love. I gotta think they're still trying to move Jake. I've got to think that. I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion, but they have to be looking to move him. Could you trade him for a depth defenseman? Could you trade him and something else? I know I'm just spitballing here, but for a depth defenseman, and then do you make a bigger trade for either your right winger that you need or your second, third line type of, second line center type of guy, a bigger deal? I mean, that's maybe where you use one of your other assets. I don't know, man. I think that if they don't get a depth defenseman and another forward, I don't know if I don't think bringing home Lindholm is enough for them to still compete, given the arms race that is happening in the Atlantic.
No, I agree. I mean, I think they can compete. I don't, you can, but yes, they
long
need
term. Let me rephrase it. Long term. Okay,
they're going to do more.
Yeah.
And the good news is, I don't think they need to. They can get somebody for those depth defenseman positions with 4th round picks or Jake DeBrusk, whatever it is. They don't have to really go out on a limb. I think the other reason why we should lean towards them or think towards them doing more is that that they were in on Claude Giroux as much as they were, and that the reports saying that they were really in, and Claude just didn't want to come here. He wanted to go sit on the beach and hang out, and can't blame him for that either. His family lifestyle is going to be a little bit better down there for the next couple months. But that means that they were doing both of these deals simultaneously, meaning they weren't using the same players in both of these deals or the same assets or the same prospects. So that gives me hope that they are willing to move other assets. They have other deals in place that will get them something good in return and something bigger. Now, the issue is are they running out of players to get? And hopefully there's something out there.
One of those guys that you're talking about is perhaps Mark Giordano, but they wanted a 2nd round pick for him. I think he's one of the guys you're talking about. Now, granted, there's still other depth defensemen on Seattle that you could still go get.
Yeah, I'm going even further down the line. Like, I know we didn't love DeHaan as the guy, but now I don't mind DeHaan as the guy. Any of those, like that kind of Justin Braun, like you didn't want him to be the only guy, but now with Lindholm, now it's like, okay, now you can get a Braun, and that guy is serviceable for what you need. Like, those are the kind of guys I'm thinking now.
I'm with you. Like, you know what? Robert Haig went to Philadelphia. Went to Florida from Buffalo for a 5th round pick.
Yeah, perfect.
Right. And I actually like that move for them. Now, they're without down in Florida, they're without Aaron Ekblad until the playoffs now. With the knee injury, but good for them. Billy Zito, by the way, he's been outstanding this trade deadline scenario for the Florida Panthers. But yeah, I'm with you on that type of guy. Do you have a preference now if it's a right or a left? You have 3 right shot defensemen: McAvoy, Carlo, and Clifton. The others: Lindholm, Grizz, Forbert and Riley and a Sean are all left. So are you going to look for a right-handed shot D? Is that
Yep.
what you ideally would get? Well, then if you're looking for a right-handed shot D, you are looking at a guy like Justin Braun, probably that type of thing. Again, could you bring him in here for a 4th-round pick? I'd like to think you can. No question.
Yeah, that seems to make sense. That those are there's got the good news is too, the right side, there's more right-handed defensemen. Left-handed defensemen are the hard ones to get. Everyone wants a left-handed defenseman. So that right side might be a little bit easier, whether it's a Braun or whether it's someone we don't know about that just pops up here in the next 24 hours where the team realizes they can't sign him and let's try and get a 3rd-round pick for him, whatever that is.
Yeah. I think that, this team has to look at it as well, given, meaning when I say have to look at more deals, not just given what they've done in the other teams in the division, but given that, look, they know right now Patrice Bergeron is getting a rest. They're being precautionary or taking precaution, which they should, but they're resting him too right now. Nothing wrong with that. This is exactly what you want to do. We mentioned that before. They're seeing the vibe from the 3rd line. I think they feel their 4th line is pretty good. It really wouldn't surprise them if they looked at that. But I think they say we might just be one legit player and one depth player away from being able to compete now with the big boys. I think they've seen enough from Jeremy Swayman to say as well, all right, we're probably going to ride that horse more down the stretch or into the playoffs. Right now, that's what the eye test says that. And so I think with knowing that Patrice is anywhere from a couple of months to maybe 2 years away from being done, depending on what he decides, and with how well this team has played, again, the 2nd best record in the NHL since the new year, I don't think you can deny it. And I do think that, management has to go to ownership, right? And say, this is where we're at. And ownership looks at it and says, geez, so we're adding these few players and we can talk 2 or 3 rounds for sure, if not at least a legit lunge towards the cup run. Let's do it. Let's go for it right now, because I think they're too good. Not I think. We know they're too good for a rebuild, right?
They're not rebuilding any. They're long from. They've already rebuilt. Their second and third lines are here for 2 years. Lindholm's here for 6 years. Swayman and Ullmark are here for 5 years. Like, they're rebuilt. This is the rebuild.
That's my point. So they're too good to say we're going to rebuild, and they're just not good enough, though, in my eyes yet. I won't speak for you, but not yet to feel like I say confidently they're going to make a run towards the cup again. That's why I say I still see 2 more moves. I just see, is it an Andrew Kopp player? Is it and we know it's a defense. It has to be a defenseman in there somewhere. Is there a second line center out there? Would you take a kick at Sean Monahan from Calgary? He's not playing up the lineup right now. Is that a guy that you would take a chance at? Could you pry him out of there? Could you get a DeBrusk for him? You're taking some money from Calgary. There's, and they're getting Jake back, and maybe they try and grow with him. Could that be something that could work, Razor?
Yes. I'm open to most things at that spot. Easy as going back to Richard Raquel back in Anaheim. That's the right winger that you need up top. And then, can you make 2 deals up top? They have so much flexibility. They have so much money under the cap. They have a lot of assets at this point after doing all of this. They really do. And so I feel like, whether it's a Monahan a little bit off the board, it seems like it's going to have to be off the board a little bit. Seems like it's going to have to be creative. It seems like it's going to have to be with another team that's willing to be creative at this point. It's not, there's no, that the idea of just going to get Claude Giroux and loading up, that's gone. Most of those guys are off the board now. So now but I really do sense that they have something else is some more irons are in the fire, because they also wouldn't have had Anaheim take 50% of the salary if they didn't need to, because they paid for that as well. They paid for that with draft picks or whatever it was, and they only are doing that for a reason, because they don't want to end this draft. They don't want to get through this deadline with $7 million underneath the cap. They just don't. They haven't worked like that. They've gone to the cap every year. They worked all year trying to save money. for right now.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you 1,000% on that. Let's quickly talk about Fazenda, and then we're going to run through the Atlantic Division, the top teams that made some acquisitions. We'll touch on a few questions from our fans, from listeners, and then we'll wrap it up. But Fazenda Coffee Roasters at fazendacoffee.com, located right in Dedham, is Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor's favorite coffee. These guys are awesome. You can check them out at, again, fazendacoffee.com. Use the code Morning Brew, one word, in checkout. Get your 15% off. Or if you want to go to, you ready, Razor, the Gulu Cafe in Salem. That's Gulu, Gulu Cafe in Salem, where they are serving Fazenda coffee up there. If you go to fazendacoffee.com, check out all of their different roasts, whole bean, and ground coffee, all different types. I think I had the Guatemala again this morning. I made a nice big fresh pot with a couple of Morning Brew mugs. I made Victoria drink out of a Morning Brew mug this morning after the big Hampus Lindholm deal. So go check out fazendacoffee.com and use the tag Morning Brew, or the code Morning Brew. Speak, Billy, speak. The deal that he signed, 8 times 6.5. A lot of consternation about the 8 years. I get it. I do. You're talking 36, hopefully a young 36. He's been pretty healthy throughout his career. You never know, though. He's not relying on physicality to be his strength. It's more about reach, size, skating, and smarts. So if he can keep that up, it's all right. It's also, I don't have the numbers in front of me, more front loaded than back loaded. So that helps too. If you have to ever get into a buyout situation. To your initial comment about inflation, that's how you were getting him to come here. Basically, if you said, "Look, I didn't think you'd get him for under." I knew 6 years would be minimum, but you'd probably be talking $7.5 million a year then at 6 years. So you go to 7 years, and that was probably like, well, we're either going to do real short and more, or long and higher. And he got his money at 8 years, and so I wouldn't say 1,000% ideal, but I'm fine with it. I'm totally livable with it. And now, again, for 7 more years. No, Charlie's deal starts next year too.
Yeah.
You've got the two of them under contract. So I look at it as a still big time positive at that contract.
Yes. 8 years is 8 years. You never really feel comfortable with that. And
Right.
very rarely do all 8 years turn out well for any of these guys. But you had to give them 50 millions one way or the other, and the way to do that is to give them longer years so you can do more with the cap, and that's kind of how it works. That's how you get around it. Someone was giving them 50 million,
right,
on the free market, and he knew that.
And if Rasmus Ristolainen,
yes,
got 5 years at 5 or 5 point something, right?
Yep.
I mean,
that's the market.
That's the market. And Hampus Lindholm is a much better all-around defenseman than Rasmus Ristolainen. Maybe he doesn't have the facial hair capability of Rasmus, and I'm just being a smartass a little bit, but Rasmus is, Hampus Lindholm is a much better defenseman overall.
He's gonna
much better.
He's gonna start playing, and we're all gonna be like, "Wow, this guy's good."
Yeah,
he's been in Anaheim. He's been out in SoCal. He's on the beach. He doesn't get a lot of love. No one's really been paying attention. He's going to fit into this lineup. He's a very smart hockey player. He's going to figure it out very quickly, and we're all going to be saying, man, this guy's a good player. I really see that happening.
I talked to one guy, director of scouting out there, who's also been in management for a long time, and I just said, would you have hesitated to give 8? And he goes, not a moment. Give it to him. Yeah. Meaning he knows him well. And so, talking to people that I trust. So I go with that. I fully am complicit with your statement, or an agreement with your statement of the 8 years never really works out for anybody. Well, there's only been a few people, and right now, I think the Chicago Blackhawks are looking at Jonathan Taves' 10-year contract and be like,
But you're going to sign him. Like, you had to sign him.
That's the point.
That's just how it works, right?
Right. So if you're talking 5 times 5, whatever, for Ristolainen, to get a guy who I think has significantly more impact on the game, significantly more. You're getting him at $1.5 million more a year. However, for 3 more years, so what? You did the right thing. All right, so we agree on that. I want to run through the Atlantic quickly, the other three teams and what they did so far. Again, we're sitting down and doing this on Sunday night, folks. We're going to have another morning brew for you after Monday's game in Montreal to talk about whatever other moves the Bruins and anybody else makes. But so far, the Florida Panthers have been incredibly aggressive. They bring in Ben Sherratt, defenseman from Montreal. They bring in Robert Haig, defenseman from Buffalo. And then the big one, Claude Giroux, a couple of other players too. They go to the Florida Panthers for Owen Tippett, a first-round pick in 24 and a third-round pick in 23. I like what Billy Zito's done. I do. I know that he had help from Claude Giroux, as you pointed out, just like Hall gave the Bruins a lot of assistance last year coming from Buffalo. But think about now what they've done up front. I mean, they moved Frank Vetrano the other day to make a spot. You're bringing in a guy in Giroux who's going to bring a lot of good experience. You had another weapon up front, a really good face-off guy. They already have a lefty faced-off guy in Barkov. Now you get your righty in Claude Giroux. Razor, I wasn't completely buying Florida. I wasn't. There's still inexperience, etc. I got to tell you, but I like them a lot more after these deals.
Yeah, Drew's a massive pickup, and again to be able to pry him away for nothing, essentially. Tippett's in the minor. You're not giving anything up is a massive bonus to be able to put Ekblad on long-term IR. That's beneficial. They might not be done. They can go get they have like $5 million still. They could still go get more players now that Ekblad's out, and can hopefully for them that it's not a big deal. It seems like I'd be a little bit more nervous having the case. I don't think they needed the LTIR, but certainly they're very difficult to play against. They're going to be very hard, and it's going to come down to their goaltending, as
Yes.
we've kind of said the whole way. That's where you look now to, are they going to get into a situation where they're ping-ponging goaltenders, which is never an ideal situation.
I don't think they can ping pong them. I just don't think Spencer Knight has played well enough for them to feel confident there. Maybe they get a backup. Maybe that's where they make a move. Maybe they say to Spence, "Hey, Spence, continue the season in the American League and get a guy to back up." Yeah. Maybe that's.
They've jumped ahead of Carolina, and that could be another. They might, in the standings, they might jump ahead. So the Bruins might not even see them anyways.
That's a good point. All right, so that's one team. The Tampa Bay Lightning, another. Tampa Bay made a deal about 40 minutes before we sat down to do this, bringing in Nick Paul from the Ottawa Senators, a player that has got good grit, solid size too, pretty heady hockey player, I find. Couldn't get a deal done with the Ottawa Senators. He wanted $3 million a year. Supposedly they were only budgeting at $2 million a year. So they trade him for Matthew Joseph and a fourth-round pick in 24. That's after pulling off a deal that surprised a lot of people, bringing in Brandon Hagel from the Chicago Blackhawks for a couple of current young players, Kachuk and Radish, and 2 first-round picks, 23 and 24 draft. Hagel, a player that the Bruins just saw who looked really good. I obviously don't know what the hell I'm talking about because I said I can't see them moving him now. Then when I talked to the people in Chicago, they said his value was never going to be higher. And he's playing with a guy like Kane. He's making a lot of hay right now. He's going to want probably crazy amount of money in 2 years when this team is really going through a rebuild. And then by then, are we going to have to pay him, et cetera? So they felt that because Razor, his value was never going to be higher, that they had to go move him now. And you know what? Now you're talking Hagel and Paul potentially forming a new third line in Tampa, just like they had the last year. And then again, as we all know, they won the last 2 cups. I'm impressed by the gumption, by the pelotas, so to speak, of Julian Breezeball. He cares about the now. That's all that matters to him.
No question. They know they have a window with Hedman and Vasilevsky and Kucherov and Stamkos. They have their window now, and he's willing to do whatever it takes. And Hagel fits perfect. Like, to your point, they went from wondering whether their third line was good enough and if they had enough depth to almost turning it into a strong asset for them within a matter of few hours. And just a brilliant job of asset management, of getting the right recognizing what they needed, recognizing what they could get, and working the phones. Right?
Mhm.
It's so much about working the phones and knowing what you can get, and the hard work. And I think Breezewa has done that. Zito's done that, and Don Sweeney's done that. He's always been he works really hard. He is on the phone right now at 8:44 p.m. Sunday
Mhm.
night. I guarantee you Don's sitting in Warrior right now in the office, and he's grinding. And he needs to, because your
Yeah.
point, what we just talked about, Florida and Tampa have gotten better. You haven't Lindholm's awesome. He's made your team much better, but you still haven't really gained a lot. It's like when you go on a 9-game winning streak, but the other two teams will go on an 8-game winning streak at the
Right.
exact same time. You
Right.
haven't made that much ground up in your division.
Right. You feel good,
Yeah.
but not.
Yeah.
The other team, Toronto, recently pulled off a deal at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Mark Giordano, Colin Blackwell. I wasn't thinking that they would be able to pull off these two, but meaning I thought they could get a defenseman. But when they brought in Colin Blackwell as well, I got to tell you what, I like this deal for Toronto. They give up a second round pick in 22, 23, and a third rounder in 24 for Giordano, who's a free agent to be Blackwell, who's a nice role player. But the question I have, well, I like this deal for Toronto. Have they improved enough given their I mean, is Giordano that big of an improvement for their back end? They did trade the Dermott kid, Travis Dermott, to the Vancouver Canucks. But with the goaltending scenario, the uncertainty there, Giordano and Blackwell, is this enough to say the Toronto Maple Leafs concern you more now?
Well, no, because they're going to have to play Florida or Tampa Bay. So they're kind of in the similar situation where they've gone on a 5-game winning streak, and they
Mm-hmm.
should feel good about that, but they haven't gained any ground. They might have lost a little bit of ground. The anytime you have the hometown kid coming back, the Giordano going back to his hometown, that concerns me. It's like the Nick Foligno last year going back to
Mm-hmm.
Toronto, and his dad played there and all this hype, and Nick Foligno didn't score a goal. And I think Mark Giordano's in a pretty good spot in his career where he's probably more valuable than Nick Foligno was last year, but it's a similar feel to me. And it always concerns me, especially with the Toronto Maple Leafs, just being around that and being in that you have that hometown kid that can't really live up to it. And he's 38 years old. So does he make a big difference for them? Yes, they've gotten better, but
Mm-hmm.
is it enough? Similar to that 5-game, 8-game,
I just
9-game winning streak, and
I
their
just
goaltending.
goaltending to me is
They
their
just
biggest
signed a
thing.
kid out of Finland. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a mess.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be the biggest issue for them when it's all said and done. They'll have some fun playoff games, just
Oh,
like
it's
they
gonna
did
be
in years with the
wild.
Bruins.
It's gonna be wild.
Yeah, but it'll be 7-6, and we'll all enjoy it, except they'll end up losing. All right, let's take a couple of questions. We had a bunch from Twitter. I told people we are going to do it later in the day, and I think some of them thought we were going to do it that meant like 1 o'clock, and no, and then I kept pushing it back because more stuff's happened, so I wanted to get it. I'm going to run through a few of these. There's some repetitive questions, folks, so if we don't get to yours, don't blame me. Uh, please, although you can if you want. Anish asks, I think it's Anish, says, can you please explain the importance of a minutes chewing D-man in the playoffs? I've seen a lot of disagreement about the move from the analytics community since the Bruins have an elite regular season defense. Why did the team think that performance isn't sustainable in the playoffs? Forget the analytics of it. The eye test, Anish, in the playoffs, you need defensemen that can handle the rigors, the physicality of being checked, of being run into. We've seen numerous D-men get hurt in the playoffs. So you've got a guy who, again, isn't a beast out there in Lindholm in the sense of he's not going to hurt you physically, but he can handle the pressure of a 6'2", 6'3" guy running at you. Remember last year against the Islanders, the Bruins didn't handle that well. They didn't take the repetitive forecheck of them well, and hopefully Lindholm's the kind of guy that can help shut down teams more so in the neutral zone or handle the rigors in their own zone. And a guy that can add, Razor, you said this earlier, he'll add the aspect of being able to take away 3, maybe 4 minutes from some other guys in the lineup by slotting them in their right spot. That's the importance of a minute chewing defenseman.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And if you want to look at it another way, I mean, technically, if he's on a big playoff game night and he plays 25 minutes, McAvoy plays 20 minutes, you can play them opposite and they can basically be on the ice the entire game. One of those two guys are on the ice the entire game. That's how valuable those 25 minutes can be for this group. So they haven't had this 1-2 combination, and to be able to roll out those two guys if need be, whether both of them are on the ice together for 30 minutes or
Mhm.
they're on the ice separately for 50 minutes of the game. It's a big deal. The minute thing is a big deal.
Mr. Bruin asks a hypothetical here. If the Bruins add a center, what happens with Howla? Domi and Kopp, he says, rumored targets are both left shots that can play both center and left wing. They don't seem to be that right wing fit with Bergeron and Marchand. If the Bruins add a center that is in the eyes of the coaching staff and management better than Eric Howla, Howla then becomes look, Howla and Coyle play real well together. As much as I love what Frederick's done lately, there's still a youth element to his game. They need his physical play. There's no question about it, Razor, for the playoffs, for them to be a more difficult team to handle. But if there's also an opportunity to play there, or perhaps left wing on the fourth line, and now you got Howla going with Nosek, the speed of Howla is significantly more than Foligno. I think you could look at that if we're playing the hypothetical game right now. I think you could look at both of those options.
Agreed. The hypothetical, I think you can, yes, the third line's been great, but I think you can also look to Frederick. All right, make the fourth line better. You made the third line better because you've worked hard and your skills getting better and you're
Yep.
getting more confidence. Go and do that with the fourth line now too. He might be able to
Mm-hmm.
pick those guys up and bring more there. Again, you might slot well, and Hollis slots well in the so yeah, I think there's options there. It's not and I certainly wouldn't say that Holla goes to the fourth line automatically because I'm not
No,
sure that
I wouldn't
he's
either.
that guy either. I think he's going to provide a lot more playing with Coyle and Hall or Coyle and Smith than what he is. And Frederick's going to provide more playing with Nosek.
I would agree. I do like Howla better at center. However,
Yeah,
I think the obvious chemistry with Charlie Coyle is important to keep into consideration. So I think that would maybe be the first choice there, maybe to put him there. But again, it's a hypothetical, and
yeah.
that's it. Quickly, Maria of Watertown, our friend, she asked any concerns about a potential 8-year extension for Lindholm. We already discussed that. So, I just like Maria a lot. So, Maria, fair question, but we discussed that already. Concerns always, however, for anybody getting an 8-year deal, but it's the sign of the time, so to speak. This one's from Bear Down Bruins. Does the Lindholm pickup spell the end for Riley in Boston? They also ask who is the ideal right wing to play with 37 and 63. No, it does not spell the end for Riley in Boston. He could be involved in another deal coming up, but I mean, you still, as Razor already discussed, you need a legit 8, if not 9D on your roster come playoff time if you're going to feel confident about the war of attrition that are the playoffs. Ideal right wing to play with 37 and 63. I could be a smart ass and say
Leon
somebody
Draisaitl.
I was gonna like somebody like that. Ideal would be a guy. Let me ask you
Do you
this.
think I want to ask? No, I want to ask. Can I ask you something
Yeah,
first? Because
of course.
I don't know. I don't have a thought on this. Do you Can they put a left-handed shot as a right wing on that line, or does it have to be a right-handed shot? And they could talk about a cop where they say he can play all three positions, but does it make a difference for Patrice and Brad if it's a left or right-handed shot?
I no. I don't think so. Although they do like they like to cycle a lot, so it shouldn't matter as much. But that right wing with the left shot puts their stick in a different place for passing and stuff. But because they like to cycle and move around, it shouldn't matter as
Okay.
much. I don't think so. Lame answer, Razor. I think it depends on who that left shot right wing is.
Yep. Okay.
You know,
So
I
you're looking at
do.
the player much more so than the way he
Yeah,
what he
these
handles
guys are
you.
too good
Yeah.
that it shouldn't bother them.
Okay.
They're not so much a fast break line either. They don't look to They don't, if you're an NHL and you're a good winger, you got to be able to catch a pass on your backhand. I think part of it, if they did a lot of give and goes through the neutral zone, and if they did other stuff, I think it would be more of a concern. But they seem to get the puck out. Marshy likes to carry it in. Bird, get after it and get on the cycle. Yeah, I don't think it should matter as much.
Got it.
So let me throw out a name here. And I'm literally playing hot stove chef. That's all I'm doing right here. What do we think about a guy like Connor Garland from Vancouver? I'm not even telling you he's on the market, okay? But Vancouver, I think, is done. They lost Saturday night. I think they're done. Even though I know they want the home playoff dates. I get it. I don't think they're going to make it. Connor signed for a few more years. He's not big. He's more of a jitterbug. He's a slasher, out there. Can he play with 37 and 63? Can you move a DeBrusk and a draft pick for him? Move him out there. And I'm sitting here saying, is he the right fit for that line? But he's a right shot. He is a goal scorer. Does he want?
Can he get the puck for them?
I don't know.
That's my hang up. Can he get the puck for them? Does he have to get the puck for them? Or can he be the David Pasternak of the line where he floats up top and Brad does all the work and Connor figure out where to go from that? I think he's a good enough player to do it. It's just a matter of, can they get to their game with a guy that's not that big?
Yeah, I don't know. He's a slasher, like I said. He can annoy the shit out of the opponent with some of his stuff. You know what I mean? He can get in there. But Pasternak, you talk about hanging out high and up top. Pasta's shot, and Connor's got a nice shot, but it's not Pasta's shot.
It's not the same. Exactly. No. Like Brad could have 37% possession and just sling it out in front or sling it through the seam, and David's going to hit it anywhere. And that's the one thing, like that's why it worked with them. That's why David didn't have to go get the puck.
Right, exactly. So I'm curious, but I was just looking at lists
good
today.
Players, right?
Yeah.
You get the most talented guy and make them figure it out.
Right. I mean, look, I really would like Ricard. I would, Raquel. I would. I think with them, a nice smooth skating right winger to go. If you can figure out a way to get him, I'm fine with that for a rental. Steve Burge. Sorry, Steve, I said the last name wrong. Did it seem that this year's trade season demanding higher costs? It seemed to me that the number of picks for people is bigger than usual. Is this just a case of the certainty of a proven player versus a number on the draft board? He says it seems like it's more this year. I'm going to tell you what it is, Steve. It's the amount of money that teams are either having to take on or asking the team that's trading that expensive player to keep. That's why there's a higher cost, because the salary cap hasn't increased and because we're going to have a flat cap for at least one, if not two more years. Therefore, money becomes a huge asset, and therefore, the ability to keep money remains a huge asset, and that requires teams to have to give up another asset, another draft pick. Lucky Lowell, any chance we can get Chychrun? No. Not now. No. I don't, unless you disagree with me, Razor. I don't see that happening right now.
I'm nice and quiet here.
No. Stephen Jenkins says, Razor, directly to you. I heard you all discussing further trades a little on the radio today. I'm assuming he means Sunday morning. Yes. If Bruins can't land a forward that fits, how about beefing up the D more with a guy like Giordano? He's gone now. Might that even be better than adding a forward? Shut down some of those high power lines that they'll face in the playoffs. Would you agree? I know you agree. They need to add another D-man, but it's a depth D-man. So that's what we talked about earlier. So I'm sure it was a good radio segment, though, you were on this morning.
Very.
Yeah. Here's something we got to from a couple of fans. I'll just throw it out there real quick. This one from Skip Thomas says, probably a pipe dream, but could Lysell play a significant role in the postseason like Craig Janney and Bob Joyce did in 88 or McAvoy in 17?
Or Cole Caulfield.
Or Cole Caulfield. Oh, man. You know what? Cole Caulfield played in college, though, Razor. I know he's little. I don't know. I don't know, the Western League to the NHL. You played major junior. Going from college to the NHL is brutally tough, but you think he could do it going from the Western League to the NHL?
No. I mean, you're certainly not counting on it. Guys did it back in the day where they'd come out of juniors and, they're that fourth line guy where Tyler Seguin-esque,
Right.
where all energy just comes flying in the middle of a playoff round like he did against Tampa, and he just gets shot out of a cannon. But you
Right.
can't. No, you're not relying on that. He might be around, and it might be a little, that's what you want to deal with in like the third round when you get down to down to your barrel and you have no one else to send out there, and you send him out there and he's just a rocket ship because he
Right.
hasn't played and everyone else is dying and just trying to stay above 110 pounds. And that's what he is. He's not. You're not just. He's not a deadline deal. That's for
No.
sure.
I don't see that either. You know what? You let him stay in the Western League. I don't know where the Vancouver Giants are right now in the playoff picture, but if they're in the playoffs, get some more experience, and then you black ace them with the team come playoff time. All right, that's going to wrap up this episode. I said we'd go 25 minutes, and then we only went 45.
Yeah.
So not awful. Great stuff. Again, Razor and I are going to come back to another morning brew with Jaffe and Razor after the Bruins game Monday night. So tomorrow night against the Montreal Canadiens.
Get to talk some hockey maybe tomorrow night too, not just
maybe that would be
stove.
not. It would. I sure shit hope we get to talk some hockey because that means the Bruins did well. I don't want to talk about shitty Bruins, shitty hockey. I want to talk about a Bruins win, not a bad game.
Well, the other way we could look at it is we actually want to talk hot stove because they made 4 deals in the next 24 hours, so that would be kind of fun too, I guess.
That would be excellent. Names to watch around the rest of the league. Do include Jacob Chikrin. Somebody told me late this afternoon, though, that they feel that they're not going to move him now until the offseason. And obviously the other name that carries a lot of question is Marc-Andre Fleury. Could he end up in a place like Minnesota? I don't know, man. I mean, maybe. But anyway, we can talk about that tomorrow. Meanwhile, no Patrice Bergeron in Boston or in Boston's lineup. For the Montreal Canadiens game. Did I read as well that Jack Studnicka a bit banged up too from blocking a shot? Did I see that correctly?
You saw that, but if he sits out this game Monday night, I mean, with the opportunity to be a first-line center on this team, I don't care how bad his foot hurts. I mean that's the old school in me, but you know what that was like. If you had you got hit with a block shot, you didn't go in the training room. If you're the first line center, you just got called up from the minors. Ever.
Right.
You don't miss anything.
Right. You know what you do? You call the trainer after you've walked out of there, sweating your ass off because you can't breathe through the pain, and you call him later and you're like, "Give me, Doc." What did Rocky say? "Give it to me, Doc." Cut the eye, right? When he had to open his eyelid.
Don't say a single word to the coaches, but I need something for the next 24 hours. That's what you do.
Me up. Yes.
Yeah. That's what you do if you're Jack Studnicka.
And if you start limping, you tell everybody you got a hangnail, an infected toenail,
right.
Whatever. That's what you do. You get through. Well,
Slept
let's hope that Jack Studnicka can play. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. Sorry for the delayedness getting this out, but we want to get it all in. Enjoy this all day Monday. We'll come back with you another one after Monday night's game in Montreal. Have a wonderful day and an even better coffee.